Okay, so welcome everyone to Passion Engineering. Um, okay, so because of how, okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sector of Small Growth Meeting, Specialized Growth Meeting, SGM, and we will be talking about passion engineering. And because of how very in, important this entire teaching is going to be, I've decided to break it into two bits. So I've decided to break the entire passion engineering training into two bases. Okay. So a glimpse of one of the things we are going to be going through is to try to understand passion. So there are kind of a number of things that I would love us to keep in mind in this entire training. The first is understanding passion. So I'll be unveiling and giving everybody the full idea of what it means to be passionate and the entire concept of passion. The second is diagnosing passion. The third is designing passion. Yes, passion is an art. It can be designed. Designing passion, and of course, sustaining passion. But for this week, I'm only going to talk about understanding passion and diagnosing passion. Maybe a little bit about that. So this is going to be quite a short session because we're trying to experiment keeping SGMs very short and seeing if it's going to help us increase the impact that we make during all our specialized growth meetings. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to talk about in introduction is the idea. There's this idea. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about passion being basically what drives success. For instance, Steve Jobs has a very popular quote. Steve Jobs had a very popular quote in which he said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." So this is Steve Jobs, who was renownedly the founder of Apple, saying how important passion is. To his understanding, the only way you can do great work is actually to love what you do, which is essentially something on passion. Now, there are also a lot of people. Some days ago, I had Mark Cuban. Some of us who know Mark Cuban, he's one of the investors on Shark Tank, primarily the major investor on Shark Tank. So Mark Cuban was asked a question on a podcast. What are one of the myths of business? You know what they call myths in business. What are one of the lies that they tell you about success and business? And Mark Cuban said that you need to be passionate about it. So, and these are not the only contradictory conversations people have had around whether passion is important for you to succeed or whether passion isn't important for you to succeed. So I hope that during this entire conversation, we'll be able to create a balance in the entire conversation, or what we call the concept of passion engineering. Is passion learned? Can you control passion? Can you design passion? Or is passion like something that is given to you or you're gifted with? Or what exactly is passion? Now, one of the first way to define passion is energy with a sense of purpose. So when somebody feels passionate about something, the person has this feeling of, and the person is energetic also with a distinct sense of purpose. That's basically what we can call passion. So when somebody is passionate about something, the person has this strange energy and some kind of distinct sense of purpose. So this is basically what passion is definitively. Now, when you talk about I am passionate about something, you're trying to say when it has to do with this particular thing, I am very, very energetic. I have this burning, this like fire that drives me when it has to do with this particular concept. So somebody somebody who is passionate about cars, or who is passionate about art, or who is passionate about tech, would literally say or feel like when it has to do with tech, I feel energetic towards this particular thing. Okay, so that is the concept of passion, the primary concept of passion. Now, let's address the idea of whether passion is something you're born with. So let's address that, because remember I told us we're going to be talking about understanding passion. And so let's address that idea. Is passion, are you born with passion, or is passion created? You understand? Or is it something you're born with, or is it something you learn? And so now, most people believe that you're born with passion. As a matter of fact, majority of people believe that your passion is one of the things that drives or gives you a sense of purpose, which I talked about, energetic purpose. You feel like you have a very strong a meaning to something. You attach a very significant meaning to something. Is what passion is. It's a drive. So now, are you born or designed with passion? So there are 4 experiments that have been done over, and this is relatively funny, over the last 50 years. 4 experiments have been done that give us categorically a clear answer as to the question: is passion, are you born with passion, or do you learn passion? The very first one is what they call the social learning theory of Albert. So Albert Bandura did a particular experiment where he was able to prove that interest, motivations, and behaviors are learned. So his ideology was that when a child is born, the environment in which the child is placed in, the school environment, the family environment, the culture around which the child is the culture around which the child is born determines very, very distinctively what the person or the child is passionate about. You see, the reason why this is also very important, and the reason why this is understanding the concept of passion, it's critical, is because most people worship their passion. Most people have this godly, they treat their passion like it's an aura from God. It's an ordinance from God, which could be, but you need to understand how God even put the passion there. So the second theory is what they call the theory of self-determination. It was done by Deci and Ryan in 1985. And what they actually found out was the fact that passion came from an environment that has competence, autonomy, and an activity involved in it. So what Deci and Ryan found out is, if you put a child or a person in an environment that automatically induces competence, if a child is put in an environment where he sees himself as being capable of doing something, also autonomy, he feels like nobody controls him in this environment, he has control, and lastly, he feels there's an activity intertwined. Okay. Okay. So please, if you can hear me, just confirm you can still hear me, because I'm not sure what this phone is saying. Just confirm you can still hear me. Okay, beautiful. Okay, Nelson, thank you so much. Nelson Benson again. Nice to see you. Okay, beautiful. So the idea that they gave in this self-determination is, you put a person in an environment where there is a high sense of competence, autonomy, and autonomy, which is freedom or control, and activities. The child is most likely to develop what? Passion for something. And then the third one, I'm not going to talk the fourth one because of our time, developmental psychology, which is done by Reninga, and then this is 2011. It's still the same thing around what Desi and Ryan had come up with. So a number of scientists have proven that for you to develop passion for something, you need to be placed in the environment of that particular thing. So that is to say that passion is not something you're born with, it's something you learn. You develop passion. I'll share this example with us. Now, the very first thing that my first experience with passion engineering was in 2011 or 2012 or thereabout. 2011, 2012. I was going for a skill training. It wasn't digital primarily. It was a skill training, and I wanted to learn. I was going for a skill training, and I wanted to learn driving. I can still remember I wanted to learn driving. It was at one church, Dominion, I think Dominion Parish, just by my house, like maybe like 10-15 minutes away from my house, there in Port Harcourt, and I wanted to learn driving. Now, they had a number of skills there. They had computer orientation, which I was not interested in because I had already known a little bit about computer. I didn't want to strain myself learning or being bored by somebody else teaching it again. And then, and this is very funny, and then there was other things like bead making, this stuff, perfume making. I don't know what they call it. There's this word they call it, people that make perfume and detergent. And so they were like different skills training, hard skill training, and the driving one did not show up, so there was no driving. They said there was going to be something like computer repairs or photography or something. That guy too did not show up. So technically all the skills, and I had already paid all the skills I was supposed to learn, they didn't show up for it. And then I started thinking, what do I do next? And so I was the first class. When you walk into the church, the very first class you meet there, the first class is catering. They were teaching catering. And so that was the first class you meet. So I walk into the training center, I see girls, a number of females, and I think one or two women. They were doing catering. They were trying to wait for their tutor who was supposed to teach them a catering and baking. And then because I didn't have anywhere to go, I sat down with them and I cracked a lot of jokes. Now, I'm not so good an extrovert, but whenever I'm around people, I really want to make them feel very welcome. So I was talking and cracking jokes, and everybody were laughing and they enjoyed my company, and I kind of enjoyed their company too. And then I said, you know what? Let me just, since I don't have any other skill to learn, let me stay around catering. And so for 30 days, I showed up every day from 9 to 5, learning how to bake donuts, fried donuts, bake meat pie, cake, different pastries. At the 20th, just around the 20-something day, within 2 to 3 weeks of the training, every night I sleep, I see myself baking and I'm frying things. And there was one dream I had. Somebody gave me something to taste. Like somebody gave me a snack. It was round and it was mixed. They put chicken. The sauce inside was made with some kind of chicken sauce. I can still remember, obviously. and the person gave it to me in a dream. Like I was yes, I can bake, obviously. I was intrigued with pastries. Like I would be walking on the road and be thinking about, what if I mix that sauce inside meat pie? What if I use chicken mixed with beef, mixed with something else? What if I put fish? Oh, they call it fish pie. And then I'll be thinking sausage and so many things. And that was in 2012, 2011. I think about 2011, 2012. In 2017, 5 years later, I was coming up with ideas. And guys, 5 years later, I was coming up with ideas. And I was coming up with ideas that would help me in one way or the other, ideas that would help me start a business. Then I wanted to start Septual Hub, so I wanted to call it Septual Group. So I was coming up with ideas. Guess one of the companies that was at the top of my list? Catering. I wanted to start a catering business. As a matter of fact, let me tell you my history with catering. Let me give you my history with catering. I did not just have a plan to start up a catering business. I bought a food business in 2019, 2020, 21 rather. I spent 250,000 naira to set up a small pastry shop. I never ended up setting it up. I paid 40,000 naira to the guy that owns the shop. I spent 150,000 naira buying the equipment, and I never started the business. So in my lifetime, I grew from knowing nothing about catering, having no affiliation, no inclination to anything within the kitchen. And today, one of the few things I'm relatively not very much passionate anymore, but relatively passionate about, it's food and cooking and the entire food industry. Now, that experience, the reason why this experience was pivotal for me was because I'm not a girl guy. Do you understand? I'm not the kind of guy that is inclinative to some other things that girls do. You understand? Like I'm a man guy. I love technical stuff. I love mobile devices and repairing stuffs and breaking stuffs. That's my kind of thing. But me going from being a tech guy to being a food or a catering guy could just have been only by the Spirit of God or some kind of miracle. And that's what we call passion engineering. It was in that season of my life I learned that passion can be designed. Passion can be designed. Now, in the next few minutes before we, of course, round up, I told us I'll be breaking down this entire teaching into two parts because I really want us to be very intentional. I'm going to teach you next week, so don't mix next week, how you can design passion. But what I want to talk about before we call it a night is the fact that there are dangers to subjecting yourself to whatever you feel it's your passion. So the dangers of lack of passion engineering, it's the fact that some people now feel like I want to make money from what I love doing, and because what I love doing doesn't have a commercial or application, that means I cannot make money from what I love. This is one of the things that have limited a lot of people. So everybody's like, how do I make money from what I love? How do I use what I love to grow? Listen, what you love was designed, you were designed to love it by the environment and some of the things that were custodians to your entire life earlier on. What I'm trying to say is, before you had control over your life, you were subjected and put in environment. So it is not right to design. It is right to regard it, which I'm going to consider now. I'm going to talk about right now. It is right to regard your passion as pivotal to making decisions, especially when it has to do with long-term commitment. But the idea of subjecting yourself or enslaving yourself to something you consider to be passion is not healthy, because your passion was environmentally designed. Now, the idea of neglecting passion and relatively subjecting yourself to whatever gives you money or whatever gives you the kind of results or desire you have also puts long term to specific things. So the way I want you to see it is this: there's a pro to going with your passion and doubling down on your passion. There's an advantage. There's also a disadvantage to going with your passion and doubling down on your passion. Where I want every single one of us to be with respect to this entire training is to be in the middle, a place of balance. And what is balance? Being able to know how to design your passion and redesign your passion. Do you understand? You need to be able to know how you can what? Design your passion and redesign your passion. So in a situation where you are you find yourself passionate about something, you should be able to do something very interesting, which is tweak that passion to the advantage of your goals. In a situation where you find yourself not being passionate about something you consider important to you, you can what? You can design yourself to what? Be passionate about something. I'll give one more example, talk about the 3 laws of passion, and then we'll look forward to next week. Now, what I want to talk about is this. How many people have had this experience, especially when it has to do with emotional or affectionate relationship or romantic relationships? You meet somebody for the first time and you're totally cold towards a person. You have no passion for the person, no inclination, no desire for the person. The person is just there. You don't like the person. Like, you also, of course, meet people, you look at them and you like them for the very first time you saw them. You're like, I love this person. I really love this person. But the situation I'm talking about is a situation in which you are very conscious, and you're conscious of one particular thing. You're conscious of the fact that I do not really have any desire, affection, or some kind of romantic love for this person. But something happens. You start working with the person, or being in the same class with the person, or being in the same group with the person, or being in the same fellowship with the person, and all of a sudden, consistently over a period of time, you begin to develop affection for that person, and you begin to develop some kind of love and inclination to that person, which was not there before. Now, if you have experienced this, you would be able to easily believe what I'm trying to tell you, which is passion is engineered. You can put yourself in an environment that literally over time recreates something that you consider to be passionate about. Okay, so the first law of passion is the law of curiosity. I also call it the law of interest. I'm going to give you 2 ways to look at it. Now, looking at it from the perspective of the law of curiosity is the fact that when you are curious, or is something that you are interested in, you want to know more about, you are on the first principle or the first law to being passionate about something. So a very practical example would be what they do to children. Some in Asian culture, they bring a child around some things like guitar, mobile phones, laptop, different things, in maybe a stethoscope that doctors use, and they put it around the child, and they watch to see which item the child is going to randomly go towards, and they use that to prime the child and prepare the child for what the child should study or should commit to in school. So this is very interesting. The reason why they do it is because they believe that somebody's inclination to a particular thing can drive passion, and passion can drive purpose. But you see, one of the first laws of passion states that your curiosity can drive you to being passionate about something. Your sheer interest in something, the fact that you can look at something and be like, I really want to know more about this. I'm really interested in this, is the first law to designing passion. Now, the second law to designing passion is discipline. It's discipline. I've seen a lot of people that tell me, especially people who do some of the mini or the low end of the biological sciences. I'm talking about people who do zoology, botany, and maybe parasitology. And over time, in my conversations with people who are in the university, and I ask them, what do you want to do after school? Most of them tell me something like, I want to start. Somebody that did like botany, a botanist, to say like, I can start this herbal. I have a friend of mine. I would always tease her. When she was in school, she would tell me how she wants to start something herbal because she did botany, and I would tease her with it, how ridiculous it is. Of course, it's ridiculous to say the least. So, Kaiba, if you're hearing me, it's ridiculous. So the idea is that she thinks because she's in school doing botany for 4 years, and she shows up in lecture every week, she feels not just an obligation but some kind of a drive that I have a future in this. And so what I used to ask them is this: how will you show up 5 times a week for 5 years, relatively about 7 months each year, and you will not be passionate about something? The sheer discipline and consistency will drive passion. Just the discipline and consistency in showing up every day towards something will drive you to be passionate about it. This is the second law of what? Designing passion. The third law is this: environment, community. When you have influences from different people who have desire for that, you literally develop the same desire for it. It's more like I used to love PS5, PS4 games. I grew up playing games a lot, especially like, was it PS? Sorry, you guys, give me a minute. Okay, especially I think that was PS3 or so. That was the last one I owned before I sold it. So I used to be very driven towards it. Like, I used to love it. I used to just so much. And then my younger brother, I used to have a younger brother. My younger brother died. We used to play together. I had a friend, his name was Justice. We also used to talk about games a lot. Justice went on to another city, and somebody else too. Like, there were like 3 or 4 people in my life who were very game inclined. They all left. And then what happens? My entire drive for games dropped. Today, I have no desire to buy a PS5 or to play adventure games. I was crazy about it when I was in secondary school. Literally very crazy about it. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Passion can be designed and redesigned, and there are laws that determine it. The first law of passion, which I talked about very briefly here, is the law of curiosity or interest. The second law is the law of discipline or consistency. The third law is the law of community or what? Stimulated environment. Okay, now next week I'm going to drill deeper into passion engineering. I will practically show you by next week or in our next SGM. It's not next week, SGM is next month. I'll literally show us next month how you can design passion. If you want to be passionate about this pen, I'll be showing you how you can design yourself to be passionate about this, and how you can redesign yourself from being passionate about something to being passionate about something else. Okay, so we'll be looking at that next week. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and drop your questions in the comment. I will spend the entire week answering your questions on the comment section. Or to those of us who are on the SGM Impact Network, I'm going to also spend time answering your questions on the SFGM Impact Network. Okay, so that's all for tonight. Once again, thank you everybody for showing up, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.